Hi, I'm Sean Lean. I'm the President of the Legislative Council in the Victorian Parliament, and I'm here to give an update of last week's parliamentary sitting. Last week in the Upper House, there was a number of pieces of legislation debated and passed. There was an urgent bill which came across from the Assembly on the first day of the sitting, Worker Screening Amendment, strengthening Working with Children's Check Bill. This bill was passed on the same day in the Upper House and gained royal assent the next day from the Governor and came into law on Thursday, given the important nature of that bill and what it addressed. Other pieces of legislation which were debated and passed, the Bail Further Amendment Bill, which amends the Bail Act and it further improves community safety by strengthening bail laws for serious high harm alleged offending and people that could repeat offending while on bail. Another piece of legislation which was passed was the Wage Theft Amendment Bill. This repeals the wage theft offences and related provisions, renames the Wage Inspectorate Victoria to Workforce Inspectorate Victoria and provides new functions for that inspectorate so they can toughen up on wage theft. The National Electricity Amendment, VicGrid Stage 2 Reform Bill was also debated and passed. That amends a number of the National Electricity Acts to provide for this piece of legislation to come into being. Both the bail and wage bills passed without amendment and will go for royal assent. The National Electricity Bill passed but was amended. There was long committee stages for a number of these bills. That's where, as I've mentioned before, the members of the Legislative Council can go through every clause of a bill and discuss the implementation of that bill and how it can work. And they can also propose amendments to the piece of legislation, which, as I said, happened to a bill in our chamber last week. Other items debated in our Upper House chamber, which wasn't legislation, but were motions, were Working with Children Check Review, things like the suburban rail loop, housing, waste to energy infrastructure, a number of other items, as there always is. Outside the chamber, in the Parliament, another very busy week, and this is what we really like, is Victorians utilising the Parliament during sitting weeks, but also in non-sitting weeks as well. The Horticultural Showcase was in Queen's Hall. Again, it's become pretty much an annual event where Queen's Hall is transformed into a magnificent garden and MPs are encouraged to drop in and find out about Victoria's $2.5 billion horticultural industry. A lot of important players from that industry is in Queen's Hall all week to speak to MPs and relate to them how important this particular sector is to Victoria. Another event was the Football Integration Development Association, which is a really important charitable entity that's dedicated to create an exclusive community where people with intellectual disability can participate in AFL without any barriers. There's actually 31 clubs that cater for this, and they are a great association and was really great to have them into Parliament for MPs and their staff to learn more about the good work they do. At the start of last week, something that the Parliament really love catering for, it's the Parliament Prize, and this is where a number of students from grade 5 to year 12 are asked to do a 90-second, we call it a 90-second statement about what they would say to Parliament if they were MPs. And the top prizes was awarded to students from Beverly Hills Primary School, Southern Cross Grammar and the Mac Robertson Girls High School, and a number of other awards were given out. And it's great to listen to these videos of young people suggesting what they'd like to see altered in Victoria, all positive things. And as I said, we love being associated with this prize every year. Next sitting week, which is next week, there'll be a number of pieces of legislation that will be debated. The Australian Grand Prix Amendment Bill, Drugs and Poison Control Substance Amendment Bill and Statute Law Revision Bill are some of the pieces of legislation that came over from the Legislative Assembly, and there's a potential that that the Council will debate some of these bills, but I will give you an update hopefully next week on everything that was debated in our chamber, and thanks again for listening.